Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting edition of Beers FPL. So, quite an exciting week this week. Game week 13, quite a big one. Play my wild card. Danny, quite a big one as well. So we're just going to dive straight into it. But while we're here, if you can follow us on Twitter at Beers FPL.
Yeah, and thanks for coming along and checking out another video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that big button.
Cool. So, unbelievably, I think I've actually finished 5 points ahead of you this week. So,
You did.
Yeah, 67 and you had 62. So talk us through how did you feel the week went?
I was very, very lucky, I think, because see when we on our last video, you'll recall I think I had Solanke and Pope in my starting lineup, but Friday night I had a lot of thinking. I didn't know whether I was going to be doing the move Zaha to Saka, which I did. As you can see, we didn't really work out that well, but I just had a feeling about Andreas. I didn't really want to bench him. I thought Fulham were going to do pretty well in that game, and I thought it was going to be a tough game for Bournemouth away to West Ham on the Monday night under the lights, Sky TV there and all that. So I decided to do that switch. And then I just wasn't confident on the double Newcastle defence again. I didn't really think Ward was going to get a clean sheet, to be honest. I thought Wolves would score, but very happy to get his 8 points and then the 10 for Andreas. I think it's like a 15-point swing if I'd stuck with my original plan, which would have left me on 47 points below average. So I would have been pretty disappointed. So, no, I was quite happy with that. Most of my team didn't perform, but Haaland, Mitrovic, Andreas and Ward kept me smiling. Overall rank is just over 21k, which is another green arrow. I was on 27, so still buzzing about that. Could have been better, but could have been a lot worse. So I'm happy enough with that.
I mean, I've got to say, how many, some like what ridiculous number of millions and millions of users this time around. So 21k is pretty impressive. I'm pretty sure that puts you in like the top 0.005% or something ridiculous like
There's
that.
The total players there, 10.7 million, almost up to 11 million, which is crazy. I think it was like 6 last year or something. So it's nuts, yeah. Riding high at the moment, and hopefully that continues. I wanted to stay probably in the top 50k maybe before the World Cup. I'd like to stay in the top 25, 30, but I know how quickly these can change. Just one little wrong decision can really damage your rank. So, but really happy with that so far. 21k.
It's been pretty impressive, mate. I think that's probably the highest either of us have been. So definitely a good, really good start to the campaign. Yeah, mine's not too bad either. I mean, quite happy. Like I could be better. I'm beginning to chew up the leagues that I'm in. So if I can keep going doing that, I'll be quite content. So yeah, main aim is to get above sort of average every week and just keep churning away and hopefully get a few big points. So yeah, I say wildcard. Everybody that came in had an interesting week. It was very enjoyable to watch. Probably could have been a lot better, but yeah, quite happy. Captain Fantastic had to be quite delighted to see him performing when everybody was, touting players like Salah and things like that. So nice to keep him going. Obviously got a knock this week, so it'll be interesting how that affects things going forward. Zaha, really disappointed, but I'm quite content to keep him. I think he'll continue to do well. Foden, another disappointment, but what can you do? As Pep roulette, everybody suffers from it. The Arsenal game would have been nicer if it could have finished slightly better. And yeah, as per usual, my bench looks pretty good, and maybe missed out on a few crackers there. I mean, Alisson. Yeah, I mean, it was good. I genuinely thought he might get a clean sheet, but that was an enjoyable result for me. I'm not going to lie, because I think I've seen so many people touting Trent to get back in, and people saying Salah was going to smash in 5 goals and all this kind of nonsense. So it feels nice to be vindicated when you kind of push back against that rhetoric that, Salah's the best pick in the game at the minute and all this kind of nonsense. Well, obviously he's not, Haaland is, but that kind of nonsense where it's like, he's back, they're going to do things, but believing in what your picks and stuff like that. Really delighted with Castagna.
Yeah,
I know
I'm taking credit for that, because you sent me your draft and you had Trent in your team, and then I told you at like 11:30 that there's strong rumours that Trent's benched and maybe Darwin, and then lo and behold, Trent's gone and Castagna comes in. So good pick.
Also,
but I'm taking a wee bit of credit for that.
Castagna was in one of the drafts. That wasn't just a random pick out.
Yeah, no, I know.
Trent. So, yeah, okay, I'll let you have that one. But Almiron, who I should have had in my team about 3 weeks ago, finally get him in and then don't play him and he absolutely
No.
smashes it. So, yeah, actually, I remember we spoke about this at one of my mates, a Newcastle fan, and about 3 weeks ago, he actually said to me, if you've got FPL, get Almiron in, and didn't listen to him, and really should have done, because he's been top notch. So yeah, glad to finally be able to get him in with the wild card. Quite happy. I mean, the Ward being the surprise package of the past 4 weeks has been quite a fun one. Vindicating all these managers that have been desperate to get him in. So that's been quite a joy to watch. It's nice when the FPL community comes together to celebrate something, and fair play to Ward for finally turning up and getting the points that people expected him to.
Oh. So that's that 4 clean sheets in his last 5 games, like a legend.
Who'd have thunk it? I mean, this is putting him in quite high territory, by the way. I mean, this is like Lundstrom territory for a couple of seasons ago, one of those players that's so cheap that's been racking up points that you wouldn't believe. So yeah, if you can keep it going, I'll be very impressed. Especially if they not got City this week, I think, as well. So
yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Like, if they can keep a clean sheet in that game, then
oh man, if he keeps a clean sheet against Ireland, then I think we'll all owe him a beer at that point.
nah.
Yeah, cool. So I'm quite content. And I think I'm probably just going to be the strongest squad I've had in about maybe like 9 weeks. So I'm quite content just to roll on. I think you're going to do the same. So we're just going to go in and talk a little bit about some of the players that we're interested in different positions. So we talk defence, midfield, forwards, maybe a little bit about players to pick up over the next couple of weeks that we're maybe targeting. So you've got a few picks, I've got a few picks. So we'll go with you first. Obviously, giving it to your higher ranking, we'll let you go first in your picks. Obviously, they'll probably be better than mine. So let's go for it.
Well, we want to do goalkeepers, or are we just doing defenders?
Nah, I mean, like, is anybody really going to make a goalkeeper transfer in the next couple of days?
I wouldn't think so, unless somebody was on wildcard. But I'd be surprised if many people have wildcards left. Last week was probably the last good time to really use it. So there isn't really any goalkeepers that I'm kind of on the radar. We spoke about them quite a lot last.
I think we can go back. Yeah, I think we can probably go back during the World Cup and maybe give them a going over.
Yeah,
when
there'll be a lot of chat then. Defenders wise, right? So this is going back to like some of the stuff we said last week. I feel like I'm targeting Man United and Everton mostly for their fixtures, but a little bit of form as well. I think with Everton, there's obviously Cody, who we've talked about quite a bit. Good goal threat, but then not just because of last week, we've mentioned them before. Vitaly Mykolenko, attacking left back, hasn't had really any returns until this week. He got an assist and a clean sheet and some bonus points, so 11 points. But I think for the price of him at 4.5 for the fixtures that Everton have got, he's a cracking buy. Whenever I'm thinking about defenders and like attacking points, like I still shrug away from centre backs, even though Cody and Tarkowski have probably just got as much of a threat as Mykolenko. But with Calvert-Lewin being back now, I just think if he's going to be pinging in crosses, I don't know if he's on set pieces, but I think out of the 3 that you would talk about, Cody, Tarkowski and Mykolenko, I think he would be my pick for Everton. So look at his ownership as well, less than 1.1%. So that's like a super differential. So Mykolenko is my one pick from Everton. And then just like, he's not even going to be on this because not many people will be transferring him in. But Aaron Cresswell, right? And hear me out, he's been rubbish all season. But I seen a video, someone pointed out that he was going to take the penalty for West Ham the other night. And then Ben Rama came up and said, I want this. So is there an outside shout that he's maybe on penalties? Because Antonio takes penalties, but he's not on the pitch very much now with Scamacca's form. Bowen's obviously missed one and seemingly self-admitted that he's probably off them. Ben Rama's not on the pitch all the time. Lanzini's another penalty taker who's not on the pitch that often. And Declan Rice must not be a penalty taker now because that's Bowen and Ben Rama both taking one while he's on the pitch. So Man United away is obviously not that lovely a fixture to look at. But if these two afterwards against Palace and Leicester, who, I don't know, I just see West Ham maybe starting to get some clean sheets, and I think Cresswell is a really outside punt as well. We know what he's like on corners and free kicks as well. So if I was bringing a defender this week, that's the 2 I'd be highlighting as Mykolenko and Cresswell as pretty big differentials.
Cool.
What do you think? So any different?
Yeah. I mean, I've got a couple myself that I'm intrigued by. More more so than and things we've obviously talked about. I mean, I think the first pick's roughly along the same lines as your Mikalenko pick, is Connor Cody. Everton look fairly solid, playing quite well. They've got a good fixture list coming up. Interesting team, 4.9 is not overly expensive either, but yeah, sitting on 44 points overall, it's quite good for a defender. I mean, it's not too far down the charts either. So, yeah, fairly solid pick. If you're looking for maybe something a wee bit different, Cody could definitely be a bit of just a little bit of a change, from the obvious ones. The other ones, obviously, like Dallo for Man United. I think a lot of people are already speaking about him. Their fixture list look quite interesting. They've definitely seemed to have turned a corner. Defensively, they're a lot stronger. I just would like to see more maybe attacking returns from Dallo, but I think going forward he could be a pretty decent investment. I've also got him in my own team. 4.6 is a pretty decent price as well. So, I mean, obviously, quite a lot of people have been mentioning him, but I think that's for a good reason, and I definitely think he should be in there. The only thing I would mention is he is walking the yellow card tightrope. So I think he's on 4, so I think it's another one he gets suspended. So it's maybe something to bear in mind when you're looking at this. My other interesting sort of option, I know I've got 3, but just picking them out, is Shah. So I know people are a bit wary maybe of like doubling up on Newcastle, but he's an interesting little player. Definitely got some interesting things going on. I mean, obviously Trippier is the route into that defence, but if you're really going to do something a bit different, maybe go for somebody cheaper, then Shah might be an option. Which I never thought I would say. I mean, over the past couple of seasons, he's not been great, but he's definitely stepped up this season. And Newcastle just look like absolute world beaters at the minute. Fairly matched a lackluster Spurs and put them in a place. So, yeah,
just wanted to look and see. I'm sure his scoring record last season was actually pretty good, like for a centre back. He's got 1 goal this season already. It's obviously not matching the attacking returns of Trippier, but just while we're on the subject of him, he got 2 goals and 2 assists last season. But I remember that period here, he got a goal here and a goal here, where he was getting transferred in a lot, and he was pretty good. But no, I agreed. I think he's a really good pick.
I mean, he's fairly solid, and I was quite intrigued to see his points returns as well. He's sitting on 52 points, which is more than both Cody and Dallo. So, I mean, if you look at that's the transfer list in there. You've got like the guys like Saliba and Castagna are sort of obvious at the minute. Cancelo, but yeah, Shah sitting up there. White as well, another great shout if you're into that Arsenal defence. Nice wee return the weekend and stuff like that. Actually came in off my bench, which I was quite delighted by. Yeah, he's another one. So loads of really good options actually, and not having to spend that over the past couple of seasons where you were bagging quite a lot of money on the premiums like Cancelo and Trent and stuff like that. You're now getting a wee bit of options of some slightly more budget defenders, which gives you money to spend elsewhere.
Like it.
Cool. So midfield, what are you thinking? I've got one name that I've already given to you, so I'm hoping you've not stolen him. But I think I really like the look of, so I'm looking to see who you're going for.
I don't even know who you could be talking about. For myself, I'm in the shop window for a midfielder because of Bowen's missed penalty and then his blank. I'm kind of thinking about getting rid of him. Because I know they've got Man United away this week, but then as we just said about Cresswell, they've got 2 tasty-looking home fixtures, so I might not. If I was, I need to obviously think about who I'll be looking at. So I think, as I said, Man United and Everton being the sort of obvious looking ones for fixtures, I'm looking at Man United because when I was talking about defenders there, I feel like there's more points in Everton's defences maybe going forward. Just, I don't know, like Iwobi, Gordon and Calvert-Lewin all seem good options, but I'm just not 100% sure I would jump on them in my case right now. I feel like I want to go for a more explosive option. So if I was replacing Bowen, or if you're for a midfielder, I think there's Rashford and Anthony are very good. Rashford's form's been pretty awful. Well, you say awful, right? He scored 3 goals and got 2 assists for a team that are battling for top 4, and he's playing as a number 9 for Manchester United. Some people think that's pretty poor, but I quite like it. Like 3 goals and 2 assists. Could be on penalties as well, like Bruno Fernandes. We don't know if he's fully nailed on them anymore, and Ronaldo's not on the pitch very much. So just for these, if it's a 3-week punt, these 3 fixtures look really good. I think I prefer Rashford just over Anthony. He's $1 million cheaper. As I said, could be on penalties, playing as number 9. I think his minutes are a bit more protected than Anthony. He could get rotated a little bit more. So I think my number 1 shout is going to be Rashford. And then I'm going to stop talking about Everton. I think, same as I said last week, really like Bruno G. The only reason I'm talking about him instead of Almiron, obviously we've talked about Almiron, it's just the ownership. Like, push comes to shove over the next 3 games, I think Almiron's going to score more than Bruno, okay? But I think if you're just wanting that bit of a differential, or you've already got Almiron and you're wanting more out of your Newcastle assets, then at 5% owned, I still think he's a class player, and I think he's going to get some goals. But saying that, like, how can you really go against how good Almiron's been? Like, the points he's been getting, how reliable he is, like, he's basically the Messi of the Premier League now. So I think Rashford's my sort of main one I'd be looking for as a reasonably low-owned midfielder. And the obvious one that we said, Almiron and Bruno G. And then I wouldn't mind dipping my toes into Everton, but I kind of feel like that's who you're going to talk about.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've got a couple actually that I was going to mention. I mean, you've talked through some really good ones. So I've got a couple actually you haven't mentioned. So we have spoken a little bit about the Everton, defensive midfield, and the one I'm wondering if people are maybe sleeping on, maybe they're not. I don't know, but Iwobi is definitely interesting to me. He seems to have transformed himself this season. You know, he's only second behind KDB for assists this season with 5. He's sitting on 51 points. He's getting a solid amount of returns, and at that 5.5 million mark, it's good value. It could be an interesting wee player. He could be another Almiron kind of jumping on him before he bangs. Really, hopefully, and if he starts to add goals to his repertoire, then it would be interesting to see how quickly they start, kind of pushing forward a wee bit more and getting some more goals. My only worry about Iwobi, and the only thing I would probably say again when it comes to Everton, they're such a wishy-washy team. Like, I think they've not had the greatest run of results, so that would be my only caveat. Like, I really like him, and if I had a spare space in that kind of, the fifth midfielder slot, which is obviously currently taken out by the absolute superstar that's Fulham's best midfielder, then I would probably be looking in Obo's direction. If there was a possibility that I'd be taking out maybe Zaha this week, is there a possibility of bringing Iwobi in? Definitely. The only problem for me is that I think Zaha is going to score against Southampton because he tends to anyway. So I think I'm not going to make any transfers this week, but I really like Iwobi, and I definitely think that he is one that we should all be looking at. And while we're in the Crystal Palace vicinity, Eze is another one I like. He seems to really be, putting in some pretty decent performances this season. So I think he could really step up and become the player that we all expected him to anyway. And they've got a really good fixture run. That result of the weekend kind of shocked me. I'm quite surprised how bad they played. So, but Eze was shining light in that game. So he's another that I'm definitely keeping my eye on. I think going forward, possibly even after the World Cup, if Palace can sort of turn stuff around, although looking at those fixtures, I'm maybe not sure. They might actually, it might be worth a short-term punt on him, especially at 5.7. He's a fairly decent price as well. A few others, just to look on a side, and I wanted to get your opinion on. So Billing for Bournemouth, obviously on pretty good goal scoring form this season, sitting on 47 points. One of the cheaper options at 5.3. What's your thoughts on him? Would you be intrigued, interested? A lot of people saying Christie. I don't know why, but for me, Billing seems to be the one that's a consistent performer for them and seems to get hauls when they play well. So what do you think about that?
I like it, yeah. I think obviously you want to find a bit more news about the Solanke injury, but even if he's injured and it's Kiefer Moore comes in, like, Billing plays behind the striker, and like for his returns, 3 goals and an assist already this season for that price, 5.3, and it would just be a short-term punt. Tottenham at home, I think Bournemouth can score against anyone at home, and then that's Leeds and Everton they've got in the next game, so there's definitely goals there. For me, as a Solanke owner, I probably wouldn't want to double up on Bournemouth, but if you don't already have that investment in Bournemouth and you're looking for a cheap, really low owned, quite reliable player, then Billy, I like it. Definitely.
So I've got three more for you in reverse order of value. So I've got obviously Bailey at Villa. Villa seem to have, turned the corner after Gerrard leaves. Surprisingly, bringing in a 4-0 absolute scalping. I mean, that game was the most un-4-0 game I've ever seen in my entire life for the amount of chances that Wolves had. But do you think that, Bailey's maybe an option now that they've brought in the Bold Emery, good evening, to transform them? Do you think that that's a feasible pick, for the 4.6? I know we all got trapped by him at the start of the season. I know we all wanted to get him out as quickly as possible. But do you think he's maybe returning any people's thoughts?
Maybe, but I don't like it really, because just look at those fixtures, like Newcastle away, Man United at home, and Brighton away. If we're just looking at before the World Cup, then even after the World Cup, they've got 2 hard games before there's a nice little turn here. I just don't see, like, if you're going to be making a transfer this now, it's for these 3 weeks. And like, well, one thing is Emery coming in now, he might have different ideas to whoever was in charge of him. Can't remember his name, Danks, I think it was, wasn't it? For that one game. So I just think, wait and see. You don't know if he's going to be in his thoughts. He should be, and he probably will be. But that's 3 difficult fixtures. Unless you're on a mega budget, say that you fell out with Andreas Pereira and you only had 4.70 views, then cool, go for Bailey. But nobody's going to do that really. I just think those 3 fixtures are pretty tough for Villa. Like, Newcastle away is tough for anyone. Man United have been improving defensively. Brighton, not so much, but I don't know. I wouldn't touch him just now.
Oh.
Sorry.
So Bailey's in the bin then. All right. Next up is Harvey Barnes. So we all know about your Madison love, but it's interesting to see that Barnes is maybe taking some of the goal scoring stress off of the Madison. And also last season, Barnes was one of those players that people were debating between who do you pick, Madison or Barnes, and I think a lot of people went with Barnes and actually did quite a good turn. I mean, obviously this weekend he's probably not an option with them playing City, but going into sort of Everton and West Ham, two okay fixtures. Leicester are capable of scoring against anybody, as we've seen, and Barnes tends to be quite a big part of that. So do you think is he worth a short-term punt?
I think, yeah, like those fixtures, obviously, as you said, like Leicester can score against anyone, so they could get a goal against City, and then they've got Everton and West Ham away, who maybe aren't the best at keeping clean sheets, and his ownership. Like, so if you are looking for it and you're in that price range, and you've already got maybe Martinelli, who you could get for cheaper, then, and you're chasing, or you just want someone who's completely off the radar, then brilliant. Like 1.7% owned Harvey Barnes. He's got 4 goals now this season. What's that? 3 in his last 5, 2 in his last 2. So I think he's reliable. He's going to be nailed on. He's playing nigh on sort of 90 minutes now every game. So aye, good shout, man. I'd like him.
Cool. And then finally, going a bit higher up on the pay scale, the original 8 million midfielder who's now dropped to 7.7 is your bold Mason Mount. And I'm quite intrigued to hear your thoughts on I really like Potter. I think Potter's, beginning to turn the corner a little bit with him. We've seen some of the results are getting better. Chelsea look like a bit of a stronger team. Mount looks like the kind of player that would flourish under the LGP, Harry Potter. So what do you think? Do you think he's an option now going forward? I think he's always going to be a good pick. I'm intrigued by him. He almost made my wildcard team, but I ended up cutting him out. But what do you think? Still returned 47 points this season, which is fairly decent for a midfielder, like who's not really been performing at his best. Do you think they've turned the corner? Do you think he could be an option for people?
Yeah, I hope so. I think as a Chelsea fan, I hope what you're saying is definitely right. Like, we spoke about him last week. I wouldn't really touch any of Chelsea defenders because of the rotation. So I'm thinking out of the forwards and midfielders, Mount's got to be the one that's kind of nailed on, and he's so creative and he's on form just now. And he can tell Potter loves him. So even though those fixtures are greyed out, they're 3s. I think away to Brighton, home to Arsenal. Again, just looking at the next 3, and then away to Newcastle, a bit tougher. I think there's goals there. All those defences can leak something. So I think for a good squad like Chelsea, and he's starting to use his squad, like Pulisic is getting involved more, Broja's getting involved, like Aubameyang's been getting goals, Havertz scored a belter last night, Kovacic with a goal. He usually goes on little spells of goals, so maybe we could see that in the Premier League over the next few weeks. So there's confidence in that team, unbeaten in like 9-10 games. So I'd be, if you're in that sort of price bracket again, if you've already got like Martinelli or Foden or Saka, the kind of bigger teams, the top teams covered, and you want into Chelsea, Mason Mount, yeah, that could be a shout for my Bowen replacement. Oh,
I like him.
I hate not having a Chelsea player in my team when I'm watching the games. I
No,
always like to have that extra investment, that extra heart whenever we don't perform.
I like it. I mean, I think like we spoke about him before a couple of times, and like I say, he was in my wildcard draft, and I definitely wanted to have him in there, but at the end, he ended up making me. But he's a great player, and he definitely, I think he is one of those players that will thrive. You know, like a similar to a kind of Trossard and a Gross and things like that. That obviously played well under Potter before at Brighton. He's in a similar mould. You know, he'll get chances, he'll take shots, he'll get assists. So, and you know, more than likely he'll get goals. So he definitely is. The only issue for me is, you know, again, it's at 7.7. So you'd have to be switching them like for like with somebody like a Zaha or like you mentioned a Bowen. So definitely worth being in the plans. So what about forwards? I mean, it's an interesting category this season because last season it was terrible. I don't think I touched any real strikers last season with any excitement, but this season I keep seeing, you know, names popping up, and I'm definitely intrigued by them. So you've got the obvious ones at the minute, which is Mitrovic, Tony, and then, you know, our Lord and Saviour Haaland. Jesus obviously slotting in there as well. Another player on the yellow card tightrope, which you maybe would be worried about. Who else are you looking at? Who's your pick? Have you got any forwards that you're intrigued by, or is there anybody that stands out for you?
Yeah, well, I've tried to just think about kind of less owned players, which is on the forefront of my thoughts a lot of times. So an obvious one that a lot of people are now looking at because of the last game is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Kind of wonder, is he going to be getting back to his best? Because if he is, I mean, his price range, it's the same sort of price as Jesus, not that much cheaper than Darwin Núñez. So it depends on what, he's more expensive than Mitrovic, Tony as well. So it's maybe a hard sell on him, but if you want into Everton and super low owned, then I do like him. I think he's on penalties for Everton as well. So over that stretch of those 3 games, he could get a few goals. I really like that as a super differential pick. I was thinking about Callum Wilson as well. Obviously, very reliable. When Newcastle perform, he's usually in amongst it somehow. Some nice fixtures, even Chelsea at home in the last game before the World Cup looks quite good. So Callum Wilson's always reliable. The other one that I looked at, well, I was going to mention Darwin Núñez. He's apparently fit for Ajax tonight, so you'd assume he's going to be back and in the game the weekend. 3 really good fixtures. Liverpool we could talk about all day about how terrible they've been, but we still take a punt on them. You've got Darwin in your team, I've got Salah in my team.
Yeah.
Some people have still got Trent and Robbo, and some people still get Diaz for some reason. So Darwin I think is a great option, but I want to single out Scamacca. We spoke about him again. I think he's really nailed on for the Premier League games now. Whenever West Ham are playing the Thursday, Sunday, it seems to be Gomi Antonio. I think West Ham are either qualified or almost qualified out of their group, so maybe he'll continue to do that. He won't need to put Scamacca on in these games in Europe, so he'll focus on him in the league. And we said it about Bowen, we said it about Cresswell. Okay fixture, they could get something against Man United, but then it's these two, and his price 6.8. I think he's a really good replacement for Mitrovic, who a lot of people are going to be shipping out as of next week because they've got Man City and Man United. Quite a few people are going to be shipping out Solanke this week because of his flag. So I think in that price range, super punt is Calvert-Lewin, and you're kind of already proven punt on a bit of form, Scamacca.
Yeah. I mean, I think DCL for me definitely jumps out. Like, I've been waiting for him to come back. He's one of those players that really motivates Everton and makes him a better team when he plays, which has been shown. So I think DCL is a great pick. I'd definitely be interested. Scamacca, I'm intrigued by. I actually put him down myself, but the only thing I worry about is West Ham sometimes not really free scoring. So tend to do okay, and then, you know, like the last game where they won 1-0. With a 2-0, sorry, was it? Yeah, Zuma and Benrahma. I just worry a little bit. You know, you'd hope to get a few more, you know, big scores from them, but I'd be intrigued to see how he is as a pick. I do like him. I know a few people that have him in their team. And I think, yeah, you're right. He's definitely one to watch. But out of the two, I think DCL just feels a wee bit more juicy to me. Like, it feels like it's a bit more of an exciting pick. Like you say, it's differential. It's a wee bit different. And for that, if you can stretch, the old Mitrovic replacement, that just, jumps right out at me. It's muy bueno. Cool. On my side, again, we've already covered sort of Villa's fixtures, but I was wondering, do you think that Danny Ings is going to be an option going forward? I mean, I would traditionally prefer Watkins, but after his result of the weekend, seemed to play quite well. Those fixtures are not tasty, but he's a great player, and if he's getting back to form, he could be one of those ones that flies under the radar. And it's 6.6, not the most horrific price either.
Yeah, like we said about Bailey, I think it's a wait and see. Like, these three fixtures are a little bit tough, and then 2 big more tougher ones after the World Cup. So I would just wait and see what happens around this period here. If he's going to be starting those games, then you maybe want to bring on your radar for here. I do like him more than Watkins. The only reason I think I've gone Watkins over Ings in the past season or two is because he just hasn't been nailed on. He's not been playing every game. But Ings is on penalties, and he's so instinctive. Like, he's just like always there for those tap-ins and in the right place when he's on form and when Villa are on form. So, no, I really liked how Villa played at the weekend with Buendia, Bailey, Ings and Watkins, and the Coutinho as well to come into factor. So they've got something about them. They can get goals, but like I said already, I don't like these 3 fixtures and then the 2 after the World Cup. So any Villa players, wait and see, I think.
Mark my words, that game week 17 game, Ings is going to score. Liverpool at home.
And Coutinho.
Ings bangs in that game, man. I'm telling you, it's happening. So look out for that. The other one I want to talk about, I mean, you've pretty much covered the players I like, but the other one I want to talk about is Harry Kane. He's captain consistent. I actually have a lot more appreciation for him maybe this season than I have done in previous seasons where I've kind of gone son over him. I think I was looking at a stat the other day that said there's only been 2 games or something this season he hasn't actually returned, which is, terrible in terms of form and stuff. That when you look at how bad Spurs are, scored again against Newcastle with a header, won me some money, which I love. But yeah, he's a really good player. I'm just, that price point is just such a killer, man. Like, it just sucks up the funds. But in this season where, players like Salah and KDB aren't really capturing the imagination, you can squeeze him in there with Haaland. So is he worth it if you can get to him? He's definitely worth keeping, I would say. But, how's he looking in your plans? Do you have any, plans? He's in your team? I can't remember.
No, I sold him whenever we all jumped on that Salah train after the Man City game.
Yeah, I jumped on it as well.
So I regret selling him, and I think I want to get him back. So not this week, but like next week, whenever I think, who do Liverpool have? Next week they've got Tottenham away and then Southampton at home. I kind of feel like if Salah was to blank this weekend against Leeds, I'll lose patience with him. So I might be rolling my transfer this week, might have 2 next week, which would allow me to do Salah to whoever, Almiron or something, and then upgrade Solanke or Mitrovic to Kane. So he's definitely in my thoughts, purely because of exactly what you said. Like, even when Spurs aren't playing well, he's still getting the points. He's always fit. He's just looking a bit better for the World Cup, I think. So I think he might come back into my team. I think if you've got him, hold him. If you don't have him and you want him, don't rip your team apart for him. Do it. I would do it, like, if you can do it quite easily, like with the 2 free transfers. But most people have got their other premium in midfield, either way Kevin De Bruyne or Salah. So you need those 2 free transfers, or you need to take a point hit, which I wouldn't really recommend doing at the moment. So I think he's so reliable. Like, he's going to have a big haul coming soon. He's ticking over with the 6, 7, 8, 9s, a couple of 10s. He's going to get a hat-trick soon. It's got to happen. What fixture could it be? Let's say Leeds. Leeds in 16. There's the hat-trick there. But he's been fantastic this season.
Listen, I really like him, and I'm definitely thinking about getting him back in. He's one of those players that he does consistently perform, and this season I've been quite surprised. I mean, we actually, if you remember back to game week 1, we chose him over Haaland as our captaincy pick, and although we paid for that, like, I think that since then he's been ticking over, and I think actually having that double premium up front with Haaland and Kane might be a no-brainer going forward. And I actually really like the idea of just having him as a set and forget player, because if you've got Haaland and Kane up there, set and forget, that's 2 players you don't need to worry about, and then it's just a case of finding that third striker carrying that forward, and you've got quite a good selection of strikers this season. So for me, it's probably going to be one of those. I've got 2 free transfers next week, so I'm rolling my transfer this week. I should have enough money in the bank to switch a few players out. And yeah, I'd really like to get him back in. And like you say, the Mitrovic dropout is feasible, and I have him in my team, so could possibly get rid of the old Mitro, switch not Mitro, Darwin. Sorry, switch out Darwin, who's in my team, for Kane, and take that forward, and maybe drop one of the midfielders from an 8 or a 7.7 down to like a an Eze or a Wobie even, just to make way. So, or even Barnes, looking at that and see who looks good for the fixtures. So yeah, could be a shout. Like it, big fan. Cool. So obviously there's rumours of a knock to the best player of the season, and that's going to obviously make it interesting this season for who we're going to pick for captaincy. So I'm not going to let you go first because you've been talking about this for about 3 days. Even before the knock, you were definitely doing this.
I know I was definitely very keen on Salah. There's been a couple of times this season I've gone against Haaland that it's not bit me, and I've took the whole week trying to convince myself to do it, even though I knew I was going to do it anyway, take the risk. But I was dead keen on Salah captain anyway, just like he's good form against Leeds. Liverpool need a result, man. Like, they need to stop with this form. So I was just thinking, I don't really like captaining a player on the early Saturday kickoff, because then if they blank, it's unlikely with Haaland, whatever. But then it kind of ruins the rest of your game week. So I was very, very, very tempted by Salah anyway. I don't know if I would have had the balls for it come Friday, Saturday. But if Haaland's got a flag, it makes an easier decision, but I just don't trust that flag. Like, he was seen in the recovery room with City today. They were all in the swimming pool and stuff and doing their exercises and that. I'm like, well, he's clearly okay for that. Although it was fatigue and a fever and then a knock in his foot he got. So there's a few things might be different when he's out on a training pitch running about. So we'll see. But very tempted by Salah. If Haaland's not going to play, it's got to be Salah. But I also like Saka as a pick, one of the Arsenal boys, or even Foden or KDB if you've got him, if Haaland's not going to be an option. So what are you thinking? Are you just going to stick with him and see what happens, or have you got any ideas?
So I'm keeping him captain at the minute, but my vice captain is going to be Foden. The only worry about that, as we spoke about, is the idea that if both of them don't play, that could cause me massive problems. So yeah, I fancy Foden. If it's not Haaland, I don't
worry, because Pep doesn't give much away, so I think even come the press conference on Friday, he's going to be pretty coy about Haaland, so we're not going to know. So we're going to have to just go with our gut and think about it. Like, if Haaland doesn't start and he comes on, you could still be in for a goal. Foden did play a lot of minutes last night. Is he going to go on the bench again? Like, City worry me this week. It'll probably come back to bite me. I'll go Salah, Haaland will start, Foden will start, and I'll get burned. But it's definitely an interesting week. There's going to be a lot of thinking involved and a lot of stress.
Yeah, so my other two options that I like are Darwin, if he plays well tonight. I think that he could be interesting, and I think he'll be the one that gets the goals when they play against Leeds. I don't think, I say this now and it probably will bite me as well, but I don't think Salah's going to, I mean, if he does get a goal, I'm not overly bored, as long as he doesn't get like a massive haul, which, is feasible against Leeds, but I think Leeds look like a team that they're going to have to bounce back and get a result. And as we've seen this season, Liverpool seem to be the team that people get results against, apart from City, obviously. So yeah, it'll be interesting. The other option I was looking at is the bold Zaha. I know he didn't do too well this weekend, and Palace didn't look great, but they tend to get goals against Southampton. And Zaha, I think, scored in out of the last 5 times they've played each other. I think Zaha has scored 3 in 3 of the games, so he loves a goal against Southampton, so could be an option. But yeah, if it comes down to it, I really hope it's going to be Haaland with possibly Zaha or Darwin vice captain. I did like the look of Foden, but I've got the fear that both of them might not start. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, that was a good video. Quite enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed it too. Let us know who you guys are captaining below in the comments, or give us a shout on Twitter.
Cool. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next game week.